loud. Now, our goal for the next hour or more is to answer these questions and more. We have a professional with us to break down the science of trauma and the psychology of addiction this afternoon. Whether you are here as a parent, an educator, someone currently struggling, or simply a concerned citizen, we invite you to sit down, relax, listen with an open heart. We aren't just here to discuss problems, we are here to discuss healing and prevention. Hence, I will be formally introducing our guest speaker today. That is Dr. David Adeoye Olusegun, who is a mental health advocate, trauma counselor, and licensed social worker with extensive experience supporting individuals, refugees, asylum seekers, returnees, families, and faith-based communities. He is a trauma healing practitioner and psychotherapist who delivers compassionate, engaging, and evidence-informed sessions grounded in trauma-informed care, psychoeducation, and community-based practice. He practices therapy on the Blue Room platform, a Nigerian digital mental health application, and is the founder of the Broken But Mendable Life Foundation, in short, BBML, not the BBLO, BBML, a leading initiative dedicated to mental health promotion and trauma healing. Dr. Adeoye's signature speaking areas include trauma-informed care for organizations, churches, and non-governmental organizations, that's NGOs in short, mental health support for refugees and displaced populations, healing childhood trauma and emotional suppression, community mental health training, trauma-informed parenting and family systems, and the intersection of faith, trauma, and emotional healing. His work serves NGOs and humanitarian agencies, faith-based organizations, schools, youth, and community programs, as well as mental health and social service professionals. Yes, Dr. Adeoye is a licensed social worker in Nigeria, a trauma healing certificate. He holds a trauma healing certificate from the R. Rogers Institute, USA, and a honorary doctorate in social works and social care from Icon University. Dr. Adeoye is a member of the Counseling Association of Canada, the Counseling Association of Nigeria, and the American Public Health Association, USA. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Adeoye Olusegun as I invite him to unmute himself now while we listen to him spend the next 20 minutes thereabout discussing our topic for today, which is childhood trauma, emotional suppression, and substance abuse. It's our pleasure to have you, Dr. David. Please go ahead and make your presentation. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. David, you are muted,
Hello.
so you need to unmute yourself. Okay, we can hear you now. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm clear now.
We can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored to be part of this important conversation with you today. Let me first of all begin until you hear their story. And as a therapist, we don't judge, we listen. Because when I meet you first and I see the behavior you put up, the first thing I'm asking is, what has happened to you? As a matter of fact, I'm not quick in getting angry with people. I'm not quick in judging people. When I see misbehaviors, the first thing I'm questioning is, what has actually happened to this person? And one of my core words in most of my speaking, I tell people, I said, the adults we all became today is a function of our childhood. So this is one of the reasons why I become very passionate when it comes to children and the youth. Because whatever they are going to become tomorrow, it starts from where they are now. It starts from their childhood. It starts from what they face. It starts from their environment. So like I said before, There are stories behind every form of addiction. The story of pain that was never expressed, the story of emotions that were never processed. We have wounds that were never healed. So that's why today we are not just going to be talking about drugs, we are talking about what drives people to them. Because until we understand the pain, we cannot really we cannot solve the problem. So understanding the pain today, I'm going to start with giving us a background of what trauma is, and then childhood trauma, and then from there we could move on like that to know um, about the brain and then about suppression before we come to majorly why the substance use. So when we talk about trauma, when we talk of trauma is not just what happened to a person. Trauma is how the person's mind, the person's body respond to what happened. Again, trauma is not what happened to a person. It is what happened inside that person, as it were. That is the mind and the body. And that is what translates into what happens to that person. So, majorly, the happening inside is what we refer to as the trauma itself. And then we must note also trauma occurs when an experience is overwhelming, when an experience is distressing, or when we have too much, when someone has too much to process. That's trauma. And this trauma affects emotions, it affects thinking, it affects behavior, and it affects nervous system. It affects nervous system. And most often, I've been to psychiatric hospital, um, I've been to some wards, I've been to some homes, and when I see people dealing with critical mental crisis, uh, I mean, even in hospital, when you go to hospital and you see people dealing with diabetes, dealing with high blood pressure, and with a lot of sickness, we wonder what happened to them. But do you know that majority of it are even coming from nervous breakdown, which is from the mental side? Okay, so all this, the emotion, the thinking, the behavior, the nervous system, these are what affects a man. So trauma is not the event itself, it is the impact that the event leaves behind. Now, two people can go through the same situation, but they may not come out the same way. One person can process it well, another person may be deeply affected. Let me give you an instance. I was watching the YouTube yesterday, and I saw a lady that was weeping online, and she was sharing her story. She said she entered a transport, and there were two sitting in front, for some that are conversant with the way cab carry people now, two people sitting at the front seat with the driver in a cab. That was the situation. So the lady was sitting with another elderly man in the 50s. But as the journey continued, the man placed his hand on the lap of this woman, or this lady, and started rubbing the lady's lap. The lady actually was confused and was irritated and was angered. And then he voiced out in the car. But the reaction of people was so shocking. Some said, you know the woman, now you be the first person they rub the day naked you. Do you understand? And a lot of comments like that affected that lady that when she came down, she was weeping. Now, that's a situation that actually traumatized someone. Another person may react differently to it. Why? Because their thinking or their processing differ. Now, this is trauma. So, when I'm now talking about processing it, then we need to now come down to childhood. child trauma. The difference between that adult trauma and a child trauma is that a child cannot process what he received. So childhood trauma now is what happened during an early years or early life when a child does not, yet have emotional or mental capacity to process it. So childhood trauma actually is shaped not just what the child experienced, but who the child eventually becomes. This is very, very critical because a lot of us, I tell people, a lot of us that we are moving up and down are at one time or the other been traumatized, and many are still carrying the wound of the past, the wound of childhood. We hear things, I hear things every day, especially when people come, for therapy. And then you imagine the kind of things that got them traumatized or what have kept them for years and have damaged a lot of relationships, damaged productivity, and damaged the entire life of such a person. So childhood trauma is not just that child's experience. It is who that child eventually become as a result of that thing. The trauma is not just the bad experience, it is overwhelming experience that a child did not have the capacity to process. Now, this is it. A child's brain is still developing, and that's why we said he cannot process. I'll give you a breakdown of it. Now, a child can feel deeply, but he cannot think through what they feel. They can't think through what they feel. They feel something, but they can't think through it because their brain at that point is just developing. Look at the brain of a child. We have what they call the survival brain. Then we have the next one, which is the emotional brain. Then we have the next one, which is the thinking brain. So the survivor brain is the first layer of the brain, the first brain developed, and that one detects danger. That's the survivor brain. It detects danger. But in the second level of a layer of brain, which is the emotional brain, it processes feeling. Then the third one is the thinking brain, which is more developed now and which begins to give meaning to whatever they're detecting or they are processing. So, what happens to the brain? So, when we talk about the survivor brain now, we are talking of where the fear center actually lies, which is the amygdala. So trauma affects this part of the brain. You become overreactive and you are always on the alert. And this is where the child is at the first stage. They are in that danger zone. They are in that survivor brain where everything signals an alarm on in the brain. Okay. So the emotional one is where we have the memory, where struggle to process experience properly lies before we get to that reasoning where we become less active, less active. So instead of processing emotions, the child stores them and they suppress them. So a child does not have that thinking brain to start looking at giving meaning to what is happening around him. Rather, he stays at that survival level, at that surviving brain. That is the stage of their brain at that point from age between 0 to 17. So when trauma happens like that, the brain stops thinking, the brain starts surviving. They are living on that survival mode. That's why childhood trauma is so delicate. Instead of saying now that this environment is unhealthy for me, the child conclude and said, look, it's like I am having a problem. The child conclude and look at himself. The child begins to feel he begins to have a problem. He looks at himself as a problem. I'll give you an example. Something happened, I'm being practical here. I have a situation back then in my own home, okay, and at a point, we had a little crisis, we had a crisis, in the family, and my young boy could not process it because he was at the survival mode at that time. And he was seeing himself as the problem. One day, he packed his bag and from school, he left and he wrote a note down. He was young. He was about, 12 then. And he packed and he went. I wasn't even around then. I was on in a project in Kaduna when the news got to me. And then I came back and okay, fast forward. Well, he came back and he was saying that he was
Yes, I think we lost you there, Mr. Dr. David. Okay, when I think his network is not stable at this point, but very quickly, while he sorts that out, let's quickly.
and the danger of this
Okay,
all is this.
Dr. David, we lost you. We
In
lost
this part
you.
of the world, there is
Can you hear me? Yeah, unfortunately, I guess it's. Can you hear me?
yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we lost you where you were talking about the 12-year-old packed and left the house. So we lost you. You weren't hearing you.
Oh, okay. But am I clear now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Like I was saying before, I said back. I was pointing out to my own family. Okay, I have a boy of 12 years then, and because of the crisis we were having, he was internalizing it and personalizing it because he couldn't process it. So he felt he was the problem. And one day he went to school, and from school he left and he wrote a note down before he left. Okay, and then I wasn't around, but I came back, and then well, to fast forward, we saw him back, and then I sat him down. I had to do a lot of psychoeducation, and I had to refer him also to a colleague, which is a therapist. But what I'm saying is this: now at that point, he could not process it, so he feels everything revolves around him. He feels he is the problem. He feels he's the one at the center. He feels he's the one that is causing all those mishaps or all those crises. So this is the state that a lot of children are. And now I came into what we call the dysfunctional family. Like I said, in this side of the world, we have a lot of dysfunctionality in the home that had affected a lot of children. And the funny thing is, trauma does not always come from extreme events. Now, there are extreme events where we have violence, events where we have all these physical punishments and all that, events where we have so much abuse or rape and all that. Those are extreme events. But trauma does not always even come from through those extreme events. They come from everyday environment. They come from everyday environment. That's where what will I say? From everyday environment, from our vicinity, from our family. So many people did not grow up in a safe home. They grew up in a surviving home. And in Africa, what is the truth? We many of us are growing up in a surviving home, not a safe home. Surviving, the mother is out, the children are left, uncatered for, they are left, with their time when we have a claim, and then you are complaining of. I mean, the guy came and said, I'm having issues with my relationship. I said, okay, so what do you want? He said, my girlfriend asked me to go for therapy, that I need to resolve something. So I'm here. And so when we start talking, in fact, I started yesterday, we got to a point because the first thing we need to know is how did you get to this point? What is the roots? And then we begin to connect those roots to the pattern that has formed. In fact, by the time I was through yesterday, he shouted, he said, this is where my problem is coming from. Because we're able to trace it. And majority of all the crises that we are carrying, all this baggage, all this wound, they are coming from the roots. They are coming from the family. They are coming from the dysfunctionality in the home. Okay, so emotional needs are ignored. So for that person that his emotional needs has been ignored, he finds another person, or he goes out with a man, like a woman, goes out with a guy, and then he becomes emotionally attached to that man. He becomes emotionally, what's it called now? You are emotionally dependent on the guy you met. And when there is a sudden breakup, there is no how. The lady can't escape it because already all her dependency on emotional have been casted upon that man. And the reason for all this dependency is because such people did not have emotional needs met when they were growing up. So we have people also in overly strict environments where fear has replaced connection. All these we must be careful of. What about you teach environment? A guy, I was speaking with a guy and he said, in my family, my father used.
Okay, I think we lost Dr. David there again. All right, I guess pending when he's able to come back to us, let's quickly appreciate some of our compatriots on the platform. We first want to acknowledge everyone joining us via our Facebook page. That's at NDLA01 on Facebook, and those joining us on our YouTube channel. That's at NDLA TV on YouTube. Thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. And for those live with us on X here, thank you very much. I have seen Dr. Wahab Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital Zaria. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. We also have our good friend, Mr. Femi Aino. Mr. Femi Aino is also a medical practitioner in the UK. Thank you very much for finding time to join our conversation today. We'll have our regular Funsho Jimo. Thank you. We have Olu Oyedapo. Thank you for being a part of the conversation today. We also have Spectator. Thank you, Spectator, for being a part of this. We have Aode, we have Bros J, we have Andy, we have my Asma, that's Asma Akman. Asma joins us from Kaduna. Thank you, Asma. We also have Sanusi Adejuwon. Thank you. Also have Adeika Ogunremi. Thank you. Rasimano. Thank you. Thank you, Rasimano. We also have Pascal Iwebu. Pascal Iwebu is one of our regular on this platform. Again, we have Ordained Samboy. Thank you, Samboy. We have Ezekiel Moses. Thank you. Al-Aja Murayo Potato to Nilai. Forgive me if I didn't get that correctly. We also have Labi, that's at John Moshadi. Thank you for being a part of the conversation today. We'll continue to acknowledge more people while I get Francis to connect with Dr. David so that we can get on the conversation. We can continue with the conversation quickly. We also have Olujobi Oluwani Femi. Thank you very much, Oluwani Femi. We also have Musa Audu. And then we have Olayinka Oniwolu. Thank you, Olayinka. We also have right on X here, Ishama. Thank you, Ishama. Ishama is the head of news at Cleanbeat 91.5 FM. Apart from, okay, we also have Tayo Lawa. Thank you, Mr. Tayo Lawa. We also have M. Sani at Dan Sani 247. Thank you for being a part of the conversation today. We also have Tosin Istre. Thank you, Tosin Istre, for being a part of the conversation today. Now let's get back to our guest speaker, Dr. David Francis. Please connect with him on your channel quickly, and let's wrap it up so that he can conclude his presentation. All right, we'll be right back. Let's have music interlude while we connect back to Dr. David. Yes, Dele Mahmood, let's have a minute music interlude while we connect with Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, where exactly did I get lost?
Yeah, we were still on the issue of the 12-year-old, and you sat. I mean, you brought him back to the house and explained he wasn't the issue, and that was again where the problem started.
Okay. Oh, okay. That was really far. All right. So that's actually where. So what I was simply saying there was that they couldn't process information. They can't process what comes to them. So they internalize it and they personalize it, thinking it's their problem. Okay, so that's why childhood trauma is very, very critical. And I did remember that I was saying that this that I mean trauma affects some part of the brain, which is the fear center, which is the survivor brain, the emotional brain, and the thinking brain. So because they can't think well, because they can't think at that time, they dwell in that survivor brain. And I know I have gotten to a point where I was talking about our environment being unhealthy. And I was saying that most of the time it is not even the extreme events that traumatize so much. It is even some of this everyday environment. Like we have so much dysfunctional family. We have dysfunctionality in the home. We have homes that are filled with constant conflict, with shouting, with tension, with unpredictability. And so for others, it is just emotional neglect. We have physical needs. Well, I mean, emotional neglect. We have the physical needs that are met, but emotional needs are ignored. And when these emotional needs are ignored, there is a rebound. Okay, so there was a guy I was actually talking to, and she told me, she said, we are not allowed to express ourselves. In fact, my father always shuts us down, telling us, be a man, don't complain. I said, because these emotions were not expressed, the guy, was living in such a, was growing up to think that expression is a crime. And so he wanted going out to somebody at the person. So the lady told her, look, I can't go on with you because you seem to shut down severally. You need to see therapy. And when we started discussion, we started connecting all the dots from the childhood, from the roots. And then we started seeing the pattern. And it seemed, he said, really, this is what has been affecting me. So he couldn't speak up because he had a bottle of emotion. He was made to, understand that, speaking out or feeling out the emotion is a crime. So many people did not grow in a safe home. They grew up in surviving home. Okay, some people grow up in overly strict environment where fear replaces connection. The guy was also telling me about how the father uses wired people to wire them each time he wants to correct them. So this boy grew up thinking that an authority figure is associated with danger. Even at his workplace, when he sees his boss coming, there is this anxiety that overwhelms him because he has think in his growing up that anytime he does something or anytime he makes a mistake, then a wire is coming. So all this has shot the emotional needs of many. From grew up, okay, they become some grew up to become adults too early. Why? That parentization, where you are taking care of everyone, taking care of your young one. The father had gone out, the mother had gone out, and then a 9-year-old boy is busy taking care of 3, 4, 5 years old junior brother. So taking up responsibility that he is not wired for at that early stage. Not allowing the process to go on with the normal, childhood of that particular person. All these are trauma that affect people. From experiences absence in the home or silence. All this speaks loudly. So I come to the point where I was saying that trauma does some things internally to us. It rewires our brain. Trauma, one of the rewiring it does is that it changes your perception, how you see the world. When you see people do that, don't find anything interesting, it's because they have been traumatized. Their perception has been changed. Trauma also affects identity. You hear many people saying, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I am here for. Identity has been lost in the midst of the trauma. They could not see themselves anymore. Some their response system has been damaged, so they react to things. They react to things irrationally. All these things are what trauma does to the brain. So the adult is not just misbehaving, they are responding from a wounded system. I repeat that again. Most adults are not misbehaving. They are not just misbehaving. They are only responding from a wounded system. So, I did mention a story, but let me not go there because of our time now. So when we now talk of emotional suppression, we are talking about all these things that they have gone through as a child, all the things that I've been through as a child, all the fear, all the pain, all the confusion. It does not disappear. It is stored up. Stored up. It is suppressed because there is no safe outlet to channel it. And it is looking for this safe outlet that a lot begin to look at, what do I need to do to live my life? So when you see a lot of adults misbehaving or in substance abuse, the first thing we need to ask is, what has brought this person to this point? Because there is a root. Several adults are actually running away from things. They couldn't see the outlet, so they are suppressed it for so long and they needed a channel. Every normal human being needs a level of dopamine to survive. That's the reward system of brain. So when you're not getting it, you look for something as a reward system to get you to that point. And that's where you see that people start running towards substance abuse. So to wrap this particular point of over time, all this suppression shows up in anger, it shows up in anxiety, it shows up in emotional numbness, it shows up in disconnection and isolation and substance abuse. Now you need to ask yourself, have you ever reacted and later ask yourself, why did I react like this? Every one of us. Have you ever reacted to and you later ask yourself, why did I react like this? This is not just a present, it's not just about the present. It is an accumulated emotion. Your reaction is not what triggers, it's not that moment, it's not a trigger. It's an accumulated emotion. That's what emotional suppression does. So many adults are not reacting to the present, they are reacting to the past. Now, what are the signs of emotional suppression? Number one, you start having difficulty experience or feeling. That's when this is a practical sign that you see that you have suppressed emotion. They have emotion, they have difficulty suppressing feelings, they have irritability or sudden anger, they have emotional numbness, they have avoidance of deep conversation, avoidance of deep conversation. And most often, they escape into work, they escape into phone or activity. So you see your child always with phone. He's trying to escape something, locked up inside, burying their head in work. A guy was telling me, he said, my whole coping mechanism is my work, so I stay at my workplace from morning till night. But that cannot sustain, it can't survive. So a lot of people channel it into activity, but they are just signs of emotional suppression. Another one, the physical symptoms, you're having headache, fatigue, and body pain. All these are signs of emotional suppression. Then, all this thing comes with a cost, definitely. A cost of suppression. Anxiety, like I've mentioned, depression, relational issue, emotional disconnection, identity confusion, substance addiction. All this we find in our daily interactions with people, especially relationship crisis, especially substance abuse, addictions of different forms, identity confusion. So what you don't express does not disappear. It will wait. Okay. So because of my time, let me just go straight to this particular area. When you suppress emotion, the suppressed emotion, like I said, they don't disappear. They are converted into behavior. They are converted into habit. They are converted into addiction. They are converted into attitude. So this conversion, this is where we come to substance abuse as part of the conversion of suppressed emotion. So the starting point, like we stated before, was from this emotional pain, from our trauma, childhood neglect, abuse, expression, suppress emotion, avoidance of talking, staying strong internally. This, is not healing, it is hiding. And eventually, in that hiding, there is internal pressure that has built up, internal pressure that has appeared as anxiety, that has appeared as restlessness, as anger, as emptiness, as mental overload. So this particular person now feels something is wrong inside me, but I don't know what. And in the search for what is wrong, in the search for relief, they begin to look for a coping phase. The coping phase now is where the brain wants a relief at all costs. So the person discovers something that can give him a quick escape, and that's alcohol. He discovers something that can give a quick escape. That is drug, that is smoking, even behavior like sex and gambling. When you, oh my God, when you listen to people's story, I'm dealing with a particular addiction story, and the mother at the point called me and said, I am tired of this case. I don't even want to take with life again. I told the mother, I said, all this is a situation that occurred in the home that has affected this girl. This is the time we need to stand with her to ensure that we're able to balance it. You can't quit at this point. So all these things, they are finding an outlet. They are finding a relief. So they get to this point. So when they stop and they feel calm, wow, it feels normal to them. So eventually substance become the emotional regulator. Now, this is where the shift happens. Instead of feeling, then processing, then healing, it now becomes feeling, then using of substance, and then temporary relief. Because substance cannot make you feel okay. Okay? It is just temporary relief. The reinforcement circle here is that after that temporary relief, you come back to the pain again. And this is where addiction is now formed. So when you come back to the pain, you use the substance again. Relief comes, the brain records it. Then the next thing comes in, a stronger urge comes in. This is where addiction is coming in. A stronger urge, because at that point where you give it that relief, a dopamine is released. But when when another thing comes again and you are looking for another solution, the urge is no longer at that level. You require a stronger thing. That's why you feel that somebody can go from one level of substance abuse to another higher level of substance abuse. So over time, substance is built, which means I need more because I need to cope with life. So the tolerance is where we now have this addiction. Over time, control has reduced. You can no longer control it. At the point, I was dealing with a particular addiction case. And at the point, this lady said to me, she said, I'm not even interested in therapy again. Tell my mother to give me my money and all that, because at that point, the odds was very high. The control is no longer there. The dependency has formed. This is the cycle. This is the cycle of addiction. The brain has now learned that this is survival. Whereas it is not a good coping mechanism. It is not a survival. It is not a good transformation. So the deeper damage here is that it is no longer just about coping. It is about emotional awareness that is decreasing. It is about problems that increases because you have relational problems, you have health problems, you have finance problems. Shame increases at this point, isolation increases. All this is leading back to more pain. More pain. The lady that was in addiction, gambling addiction, each time he comes to me and says, I don't want to do this again. But then the next money comes to his hand, he has gone to gambling. He said, I needed more money. And then he comes back to the same square again with more pain, with weeping and crying. So, back to more pain, back to more suppression, and then back to more use. The core truth here is this. Addiction is often not the main problem. It is a solution to an obsessed pain. In my summary, addiction is not the main problem. It is a solution to an unprocessed pain. So that tells us that as long as the pain is not processed, which is the trauma from the childhood, if it is not handled, then we may not be able to to find a solution to the problem of addiction. So that's the flow. The person is carrying emotional fire inside. So instead of putting out the fire, you take a drug that makes you feel the heat. I mean, not to feel the heat so much, but the fire is still inside. The drug only calms it a little. It will come back again to that heat. That's just what addiction is all about. Trauma, oppression, and addiction. So there is need for us to actually stop. Why stopping the substance, you know, stopping the substance does not actually work alone. We must stop the pain. The pain is there, we must stop it. The person feel what? The relapse happen because substance without healing will always come back to square one. So that's why healing must go back to the emotion, not just the addiction, not just the substance you're dealing with. It must go back to the roots. We must balance it. Understanding is the major thing. Understanding is not now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not excusing the fact that yes, we should not make some moves with So, what is the pathway to the healing? This is what brings hope. What is the pathway? Number one, awareness. And thankfully, a lot of men are getting that awareness now. I find a lot of men coming to therapy now, and it amazes me that so men are getting more awareness that no, you don't need to die. You can express yourself. You look at your pattern and start breaking some things. So after awareness, we have what we call emotional expression. We need to talk about it. Talking, therapy, writing, faith conversation. These are one of the ways that we can bring healing to those people. The third one is the safe support system. Counselors, mentors, or support group. We need to give them a safe support system. So most of the time, when I am dealing with a client, I'm asking that I carry the family along so that we should be able to psychoeducate the family such that they know what this person is dealing with and they can better work with him to find the lasting solution. Not stigmatize. The fourth one is identity reconstruction. Replacing I am broken with I am healed. We need to start reconstructing their identity. These are the paths to healing. And lastly, we need to start helping them to know that it is healthy coping alternative. Some of these alternatives are in exercise, in spiritual practices, in creative expression, and in community engagement. So, what was learned as a survival pattern can be unlearned through healing. Closing. So now, this evening we have talked about substance abuse, but more importantly, we have talked about pain. And because behind any addiction, there is a story. A child who felt unheard, a child who felt unsafe, a child who learned to survive alone. And when that pain is not healed, it does not disappear. It hides, it grows, and it looks for expression. And sometimes that expression becomes substance use. So, as we enforce law and protect society, let us remember also that healing is not weakness, it is strategy. Because when we heal people, we don't just reduce substance abuse.
right, thank you very much, there, Dr. David Adeoye Olusegun. It's been a great pleasure, even though we had some glitch along the line that head us back till this moment. Otherwise, by the hour of 4, we should have ended the presentation while we spend the next hour to exchange ideas, answer questions. But then we still have the next 30 minutes to do all of that. Thank you once again, Dr. David Adeoye Olusegun, who is the founder, Broken But Mendable Life Foundation. He's been with us over the past 1.5 hours. Thank you. Now, while we go into our DM to take some questions, we may not be able to have, because we don't have all the time left. For those that may want to make contributions or ask questions, please, it is the time for you to switch over to the speaker's corner. Please just request for the mic. We'll approve you. And when we approve you, please stay muted until we invite you to make your contributions or ask your questions. Quickly, let's take the first question right from my DM here on X here. This is coming from Temitope, and Temitope is commending Dr. David for the presentation, and then is asking, I need a clarification on what Dr. David said. He stated that trauma doesn't come through extreme events like rape or violence, but more through everyday happenings in the environment. Is he trying to say that rape or violence is not a trauma or not an incident that can induce trauma? Please, I need him to clarify this for my understanding and for the understanding of a lot of people that might be confused with that claim or statement. All right, thank you, Temitope. Yeah, okay, please go ahead, Dr. David.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
Okay. Yes, I heard the question.
Okay, please go ahead.
So, now,
We're not hearing him again, please. Yes, Francis is disconnected. Okay, pending when we get Dr. David back, let's once again quickly appreciate all our compatriots joining us on X here. Thank you very much. Mr. Femi Aino has stayed with us from the beginning and is still very much with us. Okay, if are you back?
yes, yes.
Okay, please go ahead now.
Okay. So, now, I didn't say trauma did not come from those extreme cases. I said most often. That's my word. Most often. Trauma comes from those extreme cases. But those little ones that we seem to ignore, that is even the one that happen mostly. The neglect emotionally, the uncared for, the strictness and all those family dysfunction that I've mentioned. Now, there is an aspect of it that is the extreme, where you have abuse, where you have rape, where you have suicide and all that. Trauma comes from there. But I said most often it comes from this particular salient one that looks as if it looks so minute, looks so small. All right? So that's what I mean. It comes from those we are traumatized, whatever. There are extreme cases of trauma. Yes. But most often, that's the word. It comes from the ones that we don't even care, we don't see so often. The one that, the emotional ones, like those neglect at home, those family dysfunction. That's what there's so much trauma of
you very much, there, Dr. David. Let's quickly take the next one from Ibrahim. Ibrahim, it's also appreciating Dr. David for his presentation. Thank you very much. And then he's asking, okay, he's quoting you also. He's quoting our guest speaker that he said most people didn't grow up in safe homes but surviving environments. I seem to get lost here. Please, can you um, explain the difference between these safe homes and surviving environments? Thank you. All right.
Okay, you're welcome. So when I talk about surviving environment, I said in my word, I said many of the family we have a lot of family dysfunction family. In fact, very rampant in in this part of the world, where you see father and mother not communicating, where you see arguments every day, where you see a parent have traveled and then they leave only the child to be fending for themselves. And that's what I call parentization, where a child is not up to what he's carrying. If you look at severally all our homes, many children are only trying to survive. They are not in a safe space. When we talk of a safe space, we are talking of a home that can provide the emotional need, the emotional balance of the child. A home where the child is safe to feel, is safe to air his mind, is safe to make his decisions, is safe to make comments and a lot like that. But do we have that in many of our homes? Many children are just surviving. You have children that are shut down. I have a case of a guy that was shut down consistently because the father wants him to be a man. So each time this boy says, "I'm not, Daddy, this thing is not going well with me," he says, "Shut up, don't say that. You must be a man." And this boy learned to shut down. And he said, "I went to a school I was not interested in. Did the course I was not interested because I learned not to complain." And so growing up now, when anybody is asking me questions, you just simply say, "I don't know." Because this is a pattern from beginning. He has shut down emotionally. Can I tell you the honest truth? Go round. Many children are shut down. And that's why I said we are only surviving in our home. Many children are not safe in our home. Even now, the father had gone out, the mother had gone out. You are left dealing with things that your environment throws at you. The children are left wondering what is next. The father comes back, gives money for food, but never cares to know what exactly are you going about. Let me tell you something. One of the things, maybe because that's my own area, I tell my children most times, please, nothing must be too hard for you to discuss with me. I said, even if you kill somebody, please come back home. Don't run away from home. Whatever mistake, error you commit, I'm your father. Come back home. Let's discuss it together. So my children are growing up to learn that they are safe with me. I can't share some things now. If I tell you some things that we share together, you think we are this thing. But then, this doesn't happen in most homes. That's what I'm saying. So instead of safe space, we are only having surviving children trying to survive. And this is what leads to a lot of substance use. That even a lot of parents don't even know that their children are engaged in substance abuse. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much there, Dr. David. We have Mr. Femi Aino joining us from UK. Mr. Femi Aino?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you are loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dr. David, and I appreciate the NDLA. Anytime I I got to know the topic, it triggers my emotion to support or to come online to say my view. I really appreciate Dr. David. Let me buttress what he's saying concerning survivor. Let me talk about importance of family dynamics. That's the root, like a book I wrote, the root of resiliency, exploiting crucial role of mothers in shaping childhood experiences. It bounds to all what we are discussing from the onset today. You know, your upbringing, your family dynamic can shape you where you belong to in future, can shape your future, and it can be adverse childhood experience in future. Like we have different type of family dynamics. You know, we have a nuclear family, we have, single parents family, we have extended family, we have blended or step families that hardly can a child talk or hardly can they make their opinion known because they are so suppressed, they are so gaslighting that, oh, you can't talk. Even in Nigerian contents, you say, oh, you can't say that in the presence of others. Let me come back to a developed country where the children are doing what they like under the cover of child legislation that you can hardly chastise your child or your children in an open place. Even if they are slapping you on the streets of Manchester or London or US, you hardly can chastise them. This kind of a thing can bring adverse childhood experiences in future. You know, let me come back to myself. I grew up in an academic environment. You know, my uncle is a professor. He hardly talk. You know, that kind of thing molded my life. That, oh, if anybody is doing anything wrong, I'll just be looking at you. And later, I now discovered that this is a weakness. This is it can result to a bad things. So I wouldn't like my children be doing such a to become what I experienced. So I really appreciate Dr. David for this topic. And when I saw the topic, oh, I was saying I'm going to use my break to contribute my quota. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Femi. I know Mr. Femi I know works as a social worker in the UK. Thank you very much. Dr. David, you want to say something to that, or we should pass?
Yeah, that's fine. They've done a good job into that.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take the next question from what is that? I'll have to be skipping some questions because especially those that have been taken care of in parts of the presentation or in while Dr. David was answering some other questions. So I'll be skipping them. And then let's take this one from Abu. Abu is asking, apart from the psychological effects of trauma and their physical health consequences of emotional suppression, apart from the psychological effects. All right, please go ahead, Dr. David. Yeah, you are muted, Francis, please.
Apart from the psychological effect, okay, we have physical effect. And like in my presentation, I did mention, I said many of the sickness that people are battling with today is traceable to this psychological aspect. It's traceable to this breakdown, this what's it called now? Neurological breakdown, because it's interconnected. You know, when you have, like for instance, let me give a life lesson. I have someone that was moved to the hospital on a critical condition of ulcer and sleeplessness. So when we got to the hospital, okay, they were treating ulcer, diagnosed a lot of things, but for 2 weeks the ulcer was not healing. I mean, the pain was not going. It was not reduced, and the doctor, they said they need to do a more proper check. So they were referred to the psychiatric doctor, to the psychiatrist. So when the psychiatrist checked and assessed, that's when they discovered that there is a deep-seated trauma there. There was a depression and all that. So the depression is what brings about the ulcer. The depression is what brought about the high BP. The depression brought several sicknesses. The reason is this: when your brain is not settled, when there's a psychologically or emotionally, there is a secretion that is toxic to the body that breaks down the system of the body. So naturally, you start healing. Even cancer, all these things are traceable most times, not to what you, not to something, even it could be traceable to some other aspects, but then so many of it are from mental or emotional breakdown. So, and apart from that, when your immune system is broken because your emotional state is not alive or your psychological state is dampened, it damages your immune system. It is this immune system that fights diseases. That's why you see that they are connected. So if my body cannot fight malaria, if my body cannot fight disease, we need to treat it. So most of the time, when people come, especially in the church, the church is even the most honest of all. Because people come and then they say, pray for me. And then they feel that's the end. No, most times when I go to do counseling in the church, and then they say some people should line up, okay, pray. There was a church I went to and they said, just pray for them. I said, I don't just pray. I want to know what's the root. What are you dealing with? What causes the headache? What causes the stomach pain? There is a root. All these are the physical challenges that come with trauma. So many of it, especially when you talk to abuse and all that, you see the physical, you see the wound and all that. So they are so diverse like that. But the major highlight is that one, the system is broken down, the immune system is damaged, and so you are susceptible to any other strange sickness that want to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me have the last acknowledgement before we close the space today. I think I stopped at what point before? Okay, I think I stopped at Tosin Istre. Thank you. And then let's take some more so that we can go back and take the last set of questions before we call it a day today. Okay, we also have Dr. Shas right on the space. Thank you. We have Uncle Deji. Thank you, Deji, there. That's at Deji Adesogun. Thank you very much. We have Jagoran Castina. Thank you. Imperial 360 Africa. Thank you for being part of the conversation today. We also have Suleiman Araromi. Thank you. Salt of Ruben. Thank you. Kenechuku. I believe Kenechuku was trying to move to the speaker's corner. Obviously, he wanted to speak or ask questions, but unfortunately, his network was bad. And then we also have Ikoro Niger. Thank you very much. We also have ADM Bature. Thank you. Alabi Helen Oyinoze. I believe I got that right. Thank you very much. Let's take a pause there so that we can take some more questions and we'll call it a day today. Okay, let's take this one from Janet. Janet is appreciating Dr. David for the presentation, and then she wants to. Okay, she's trying to ask what's in a part of the world we normally rely on the values of our culture and societal norms to build us up, especially against some of the challenges we're discussing here today. And at the same time, we also know that some of these cultures and societal norms encourage emotional suppression, as has been said in the presentation by our guest speaker. How do we then create a balance between the values and the usefulness of our culture and societal norms to build us up emotionally and be who we really or we should be, as against the negative impact of some of these cultures and societal norms that encourage emotional suppression. Thank you. All right, that's from Janet. Dr. David, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Culture and values are important. Like you have said, they shape discipline, they shape respect, they shape identity. But when they discourage healthy emotional expression, they can also create internal pressure. Okay, so why culture? In our culture, for instance, one of the common cultural messages we have is be strong. Some of it is men don't cry. Some of it is don't talk about family issues. That one is very common. Some of it is endure and move on. Okay, so what these are trying to achieve, they are trying to achieve strength, they are trying to achieve respect, they are trying to achieve stability and other. These are good intentions, but the hidden effect is that emotions are buried. The hidden effect is that pain is not processed. People learn to hide instead of heal. So, culture often teaches us how to behave, but not always how to process. And this line is very, very important, especially when I talk to people. We must teach the children how to process emotion, how to release their emotion. The balance here is this. We don't just reject culture, we refine how we practice culture. I don't know if you understand. We don't reject culture, we refine how we practice it. Now, strength don't feel. That is the small system. But the new strength, feel, understand, and manage emotion. So we keep the value, which is the strength. But now it feels, it understands, and it manages emotion. So number two, we must create safe space for expression. That's the balance. Not everything must be public. Not, but emotions must be processed somewhere. And this is where therapy comes to play. Trusted people, trusted mentors. Okay. And then another thing is we must separate privacy from suppression. Like the one that said, don't talk about it all. No. Healthy privacy. Talk about it in the right space. There is a right space to talk about it. And this aspect is very important because it's not everywhere you can share your problem. So when they are saying don't talk about it all, yes, there's something they are trying to, bring up. speaking, they are shut down. When they are showing emotion, they are unsafe. So the child now learns don't cry. He learns don't talk. He learns hide how you feel. Hide how you feel. So when you are asking some child what's going on, he said, I'm okay. I'm okay. Even some, I was talking to some group of youths, and one of them was telling me that nothing moves me, I don't cry. These are suppression over time. So what this means is this: instead of processing the emotion, the child pushes them down to survive. That's why I said many of us are just in surviving mode. We are pushing things down. The eventual outburst is when you are now grown. That is when the rage will be coming out. So suppression is not weakness, it is adaptation. Okay? Why is it called a coping mechanism? It's because it helps the child to avoid punishment. It's a coping mechanism because it helps the child to avoid rejection. It helps them to maintain some sense of safety. This is how they want it in my home, or this is how it is in my home. Let me just keep within this. But I can't express what I am feeling. And that's why in therapy, one of the things that when we begin to bring them to stability is that we try to let them express what they are feeling. Write it down or draw it. Let them know that you can feel, and let them be able to mention what they are feeling. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. David. We are approaching the end of this conversation. We just have one more question that we're going to be taking, and this will be from this. Where is the question now? Let me skim this one. Okay, this is coming from Abuna. Abu is asking, do society. Okay, he's asking about societal expectations around masculinity. How does this contribute to emotional suppression or increase substance abuse among men who experience childhood trauma? Another tricky one. I don't know if Dr. David got that. Yeah, how does societal expectations around masculinity contribute to emotional suppression and increase substance abuse among men who experience childhood trauma? I mean, this has to do with societal expectations around masculinity. That's talking about men now, you know, that societal pressure on the menfold.
Okay, societal expectation around masculinity.
Yes.
How does it contribute to emotional suppression?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yes. Societal expectation around masculinity can significantly contribute, to emotional suppression, and in some cases, substance abuse. When masculinity is defined as don't feel, don't show weakness, many men learn to suppress emotion, and that suppressed pain often look for another outlet. So this is the expectation. How masculinity expectation creates suppression. Number one, the common message is be strong. Men don't cry, or handle it yourself. Or one of the messages that boys grow up with is don't be weak. We hear it most time. Don't be weak. Okay, so this is how masculinity expectation has created a lot of suppression. So what that teaches us now is that emotion is equal to weakness. It's teaching men that when you are vulnerable, you are not affectable. It's teaching us that when we express, we are unsafe. But this is not true. So the result is that boys don't stop feeling. They just stop expressing. So a lot of boys now, they stop expressing their feelings because this is the way they have been programmed from the beginning. So men are not less emotional, let's get it. They are often less allowed to express their emotion in the context of our culture. So what happens internally in us is that because the emotions are not expressed, the pain is buried, the stress accumulates, the emotional language is not developed. So instead of talking, instead of processing or seeking for help, what do you turn to? We turn to distraction, we turn to anger, we turn to isolation and substance abuse. The link here is this. substance abuse become attractive. Why? Because it's a quick relief, and then no vulnerability is required, and also socially accepted in many male space. Substance abuse are socially accepted in many male space. So instead of being overwhelmed now, the person drink. Instead of saying I am hurting, the person use substance to kill that hurting. So substance use becomes the emotional language many men were never taught. I don't know if that makes
All
sense.
right.
The balance view is not all masculinity is harmful. Strength, responsibility, and resilience are valuable. That's the balance view.
All right, so let's quickly take just at a go. Take your closing remarks, Dr. David. Let's have your closing remarks before we and we draw the curtains on this conversation today. Please go ahead with your closing remarks. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Let me say thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for being part of a conversation that truly matters. Uh, and if we truly want to address substance abuse, we must go beyond controlling behavior and begin to understand and heal the pain behind it. Because when we heal people, we don't just reduce addiction, we restore life. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. David Adeoye Olusegun. He's the founder, Broken But Mendable Life Foundation, that's BBML. He's a mental health advocate, trauma counselor, and licensed social worker with extensive experience supporting individuals, refugees, asylum seekers, returnees, families, and faith-based communities. Is a trauma healing practitioner and psychotherapist who delivers compassionate, engaging, and evidence informed sessions grounded in trauma informed care, psychoeducation, and community based practice. He's been with us for solid 2 hours now. We want to sincerely appreciate you on behalf of the leadership of the NDLA and all our compatriots across, joining us from across the world, for being a part of this conversation today by sparing your time and to come around to share knowledge and experience with us. We do hope this will go far beyond these past 2 hours, as we know that quite a number of people listen to the recorded versions across the globe. Thank you very much once again, Dr. David Adeoye, for taking time out to be with us on this conversation today and for the deep insights you have shared. Thank you. We appreciate you and extend our utmost regards to your family. That's the much we can take on the space today. But before we go, let me also appreciate my colleagues working with me behind the scene here, talking of Rita in Lagos, Francis, Dele, Mahmoud, Victor, Philemon, Sini, Kumbi, and the rest of you ladies. Thank you very much for your time, for your contributions. You are all well appreciated, even if I'm not able to mention your names individually, but collectively as a team, we know you all and we appreciate you. Thank you very much. That will be all from this end, and I invite Mahmoud now to formally close the space. Thank you, Mahmoud. Let's have you, please.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Femi Babafemi, the NDLA's Director of Media and Advocacy, for guiding us throughout today's program. For more information about the NDLA, our listeners can visit our website www.ndla.gov.ng, our social media platform